Welcome to segment 2. And what we're going to talk about here is how to determine what your chief aim or desire is. And as we start to go, the first question I'm going to ask is, what is your dream? What is it that you want out of life? And as you start to think about what that is and really start to determine, now you can start to develop your game plan. When we talk about developing our game plan, really it's all based on what it is that we really want out of life. See, the problem is we don't really know. When you ask somebody, what is it that you really want to do? Well, we don't think that way. What we think about is what we have to do, not what we really want to do. And by really looking at it a different way and starting to do what it is that you really want to do, you're going to start to see results in your life and you're going to start to create that happiness. Things are going to change for you in a positive way. But it's about doing what you want to do. So when we start to talk about developing your dream, what is it that you want to do? For me, it was to become a professional hockey player. And I remember from the first time as a 4-year-old strapping skates on in my living room and skating up to the local rink, I knew that that's what I was going to be. Now, it's hard for some of you to imagine, I'm sure, that a 4-year-old knows what he wants, but you can ask my parents and I'm going to tell you, that's what I wanted. And every year, as I grew older and as I progressed, it became more and more of a passion for me. And my friends, started to drop off. The kids that I was playing with at 4, at 8, there was half of them. And at 14, there was a quarter of them. But I was willing to do that. I was willing to give up my friendship because one thing I did start to learn and understand was that in order to grow and achieve what it is that you want to achieve, you're going to have to let go of some of the things that maybe aren't working for you so well. And again, that's all part of our game plan. By the time I was 17 years old and I was drafted into the NHL, I knew that I had a real chance for my dream to become true. Had I not played a professional game, I think I would have been pretty satisfied that I was drafted into the NHL. But I wasn't quite done. I wanted to keep going. And what I started to do is I really started to change my attitude towards that. And if you see here, our attitude is our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. I felt pretty good about being drafted. I know it felt really good. And I was acting like a big wheel. I can tell you that at 17 years old, you're walking around pretty confident in your abilities. You think about it. To be considered one of the best players in the world, or at least the opportunity to become one of the best players in the world at 18 years old, not an easy thing to do. So I had achieved some great things, and it was because I had the right attitude growing up. What started to happen as I got older, though, and as I got into my professional career, well, you know what? My attitude started to drift a little bit. Now, I wasn't thinking such good things, because when you're in the professional sport, there's the minors and there's the pros. And we all want to stay in the upper league, but sometimes you need to develop a little bit more. And what started to happen for me was I thought I was good enough to play in the NHL at 18, at 19, and at 20. But the powers that be didn't agree. And it was very tough for me to handle because I had worked so hard. I had sacrificed. I had moved away from home. I had done all these things. Everything that they had asked of me, I had done, and they were still asking more. And I had a hard time with that. So as my attitude started to decline, my thoughts about it wasn't so good. My feelings, I didn't feel real good about going to the rink anymore. And you know what? My actions really showed. So it was tough for the coaches because they knew that I had all this talent and all this ability. But you know what? Because I had changed my attitude about it, I wasn't having success. I was struggling in the minor leagues. And it wasn't until one of my coaches really grabbed me and kind of shook me and woke me up saying, listen, you're going to blow it. You've worked so hard to get here. If you don't get it together, if you don't change your attitude, well, you know what? You're not going to have the things that you want. You're going to be out of the game before you know it. And I was 21 at the time. I had just started playing professional hockey. So as I started to change my attitude, I really started to see things. You know what? I enjoyed coming to the rink again. I enjoyed learning. I was listening to my coaches. I had a great attitude. And you know what? I was feeling a whole lot better about myself and the situation that I was in. And I was really starting to act on those. And as I did, guess what? Phone call came. They needed a defenseman, and I got called up to play in the NHL. And I'll never forget it because I was playing in Washington. I was with the Detroit Red Wings, and it was my first shift, and oh, I was nervous. TV, I know my parents are watching back home. It was my big chance. I was finally on the big stage, and it was my first shift, and I started with the puck behind the net. Passed it up to my teammate and followed him up just like I had done in practice. We crossed into the other opposing zone. He drops me the puck. I take a shot. My first shot on an NHL goal, and I scored. And it was one of the greatest feelings I had ever had. And it really was about changing my attitude, because had I not, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. So as we talked about, it was the change in my attitude that really got me to where I wanted to go. But ultimately, here's the thing. This is what helped guide me to that point. And it was having a playbook. See, just because I changed my attitude, that was great. That helped a lot, because my thoughts, feelings, and actions really helped determine what it is where I'm going to go. But you know what? It was the playbook. It's having the playbook. If you don't have the playbook to guide you in the steps that you want to achieve, it's going to be tough. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. What we want to make sure of is that you have a definite game plan, a playbook. Do you know where you're going? Do you know what it is that you want? Sure, we've changed our attitude about things, but the attitude, you need to have a direction. And once you have that sense of direction, it's really going to help you achieve what it is that you want to achieve. And your playbook's always going to change. See, when we'd go in against a tough team, we knew that we had to play a little bit differently against that team. And if we went in against a weaker team, we knew that maybe we could do some things that we wouldn't normally do against some of the tougher teams. And this is exactly what you're going to go through. There's going to be situations that come at you where you're going to be able to determine how much you need to give to certain situations. You're going to be able to use that playbook. Sit down and think about it. Really think about it. And then start to analyze. Does it make you feel good? And are you ready to act on it? Because if you are, great things are going to happen.